Hi guys, it's Sylvie again, and we're back with Wicked. I'm going to be finishing up the chapter that I started for you last time, which is Maladies and Remedies. And I will read you the last paragraph before we end it again so that you guys can kind of pick up on the continuation. Our family isn't about money or about earthly power, said Frex, taking no offense for once, but I'm descended in a direct line from 6 ministers before me, father to son. We're as well regarded in spiritual circles as Melina's family is in parlors and at the court of Ozma. And no, there is no green anywhere. I never heard of such a thing before in any family. Nanny nodded and said, well, all right, I was only asking. I know you're gooder than goblins, martyrs. But, Freck said humbly, Nanny, I think I caused this thing to happen. My tongue slipped on the day of the birthday. I announced that the devil was coming. I meant the clock of the time dragon, but suppose those words unlocked room for the devil? The child is no devil, snapped Nanny. She's no angel either, she thought, but she kept it to herself. On the other hand, Frex continued, sounding more secure, she may have been cursed by Melina, accidentally, who took my remark the wrong way and wept about it. Maybe Melina opened up inside herself a window through which an unattached sprite entered and colored the child. On the very day she is to be born, said Nanny, that's a capable sprite. Is your goodness so exalted you attract the truly high-powered among the spirits of aberration? Frex shrugged. A few weeks earlier he would have nodded, but his confidence was shattered with his abject failure in rush margins. He did not dare suggest what he feared. The child's abnormality was a punishment for his failure to protect his flock from the pleasure faith. Well, Nanny asked practically, if through the curse the goods were damaged, then through what might the ill be overturned? An exorcism, said Frex. Are you empowered? If I'm successful at changing her, we'll know that I'm empowered, said Frex. But now that he had a goal, his spirits brightened. He would spend some days in fasting, rehearsing prayers, and collecting supplies for the arcane ritual. When he was off in the woods and Elphaba napping, Nanny perched on the side of Melina's hard marriage mattress. Frex wonders if his prediction that the devil was coming caused a window in you to open, letting an imp pass through to spoil the baby, said Nanny. She was crocheting an edge of lace, clumsily. She had never excelled at piecework, but she liked handling the polished ivory crochet hook. I wonder if you opened another window. Melina, groggy from pinlobble leaves as usual, arched an eyebrow in confusion. Did you sleep with someone other than Frex? Nanny asked. Don't be mad, said Melina. I know you, honey, said Nanny. I'm not saying you're not a good wife, but when you had the boys buzzing around you in your parents' orchard, you changed your perfumed undergarments more than once a day. You were lusty and sneaky and good at it. I'm not looking down at you, but don't pretend to me that your appetites weren't healthy. Melina buried her face in the pillow. Oh, for those days, she wailed. It's not that I don't love Frex, but I hate being better than the local peasant idiots. Well now, this green child brings you down to their level. You ought to be pleased, said Nanny meanly. Nanny, I love Frex, but he leaves me alone so often. I would kill for some tinker to pass by and sell me more than a tin coffee pot. I would pay well for someone less godly and more imaginative. That's a question for the future, said Nanny sensibly. I'm asking you about the past, the recent past, since your marriage. But Melina's face was vague and blurry. She nodded, she shrugged, she rocked her head. The obvious theory is an elf, said Nanny. I wouldn't have sex with an elf, Melina shrieked. No more would I, said Nanny, but the green does give one pause. Are there elves in the neighborhood? There's a gaggle of them, tree elves up over the hill someplace, but if possible they are more moronic than the fair citizens of Rush Margins. Really, Nanny, I've never even seen one, or only from a distance. The idea is repulsive. Elves giggle at everything. Do you know that? One of them falls out of an oak and smashes his skull like a rotten turnip, and they gather and giggle and then forget about him. It's insulting of you to even bring it up. get used to it if we don't find a way out of this quagmire? Well, the answer is no. Then someone else, someone handsome enough on the outside, but carrying a germ that maybe you caught. Malena looked shocked. She hadn't thought of her own health since Elphaba was born. Could she be at risk? The truth, said Nanny. We must know. The truth, said Malena distantly. Well, it is unknowable. What are you trying to say? I don't know the answer to your question, and Malena explained. Yes, the cottage was off the beaten track, and of course she never passed more than the curtest greetings with local farmers and fishermen and thickheads. But more travelers took to the hills and the woods than you would credit. Often she had sat, listless and lonely, while Frex was off preaching, and she had found comfort in giving passerby a simple meal and a buoyant conversation. And more? But on those boring days, Malena muttered, she had taken to chewing pinlobble leaves. When she would wake, because the sun was setting or Frex was there frowning or grinning at her, she remembered little. You mean you indulged in adultery and you don't even have the benefit of a good saucy memory about it? Nanny was scandalized. I don't know that I did, said Malena. I wouldn't choose to. I mean, not if I was thinking clearly. But I remember once when a tinker with a funny accent gave me a draught of some heady brew from some green glass bottle. I had a rare, expansive dream, Nanny, of the other world, cities of glass and smoke, noise and color. I tried to remember. So you could well have been raped by elves. Won't your grandfather be pleased to learn how Frex is taking care of you? Stop, cried Malena. Well, I don't know what's to be done. Nanny lost her temper at last. Everyone's being irresponsible. If you can't remember whether your marriage vows have been broken or not, there's not much good in acting like an offended saint. We can always drown the baby and start over. Just try drowning that thing, muttered Nanny. I pity the poor lake asked to take her in. Later, Nanny went through Malena's small collection of medicines, herbs, drops, roots, brandies, leaves. She was wondering, without much hope, if she could invent something that might cause the girl's skin to blanch. In the back of the chest, Nanny found the green glass bottle spoken of by Malena. The light was bad and her eyes weren't strong, but she could make out the words "Miracle Elixir" on a piece of paper pasted to the front. Though she had a native skill in healing, Nanny was unable to come up with a skin-changing potion. Bathing the child in cow's milk didn't make the skin white either, but the child would not allow herself to be lowered into a pail of lake water. She twisted like a cat in panic. Nanny kept on with the cow's milk. It left a horrid sour stink if she did not rub it off thoroughly with a cloth. Frex organized an exorcism. It involved candles and hymns. Nanny watched from a distance. The man was beady-eyed, perspiring with effort even though the mornings were colder and colder. Elphaba slept in her binding cloth in the middle of the carpet, oblivious to the sacrament. Nothing happened. Frex fell, exhausted and spent, and cradled his green daughter within the crook of his arm, as if finally embracing the proof of some undisclosed sin. Malena's face hardened. There was only one thing left to try. Nanny gathered the courage to bring it up on the day she was to leave back for Colwyn grounds. We see that peasant treatments don't work, said Nanny, and spiritual intercession has failed. Do you have the courage to think about sorcery? Is there someone local who could magic the green venom out of the child? Frex was up and lashing out at Nanny, swinging his fists. Nanny fell backwards off her stool, and Malena bobbed about her, shrieking. How dare you? Cried Frex. In this household, isn't this green girl insult enough? Sorcery is the refuge of the immoral. When it isn't out-and-out charlatanism, it is dangerously evil, contracts with the demons. Nanny said, Oh, perverse me, you fine man. Don't you know enough to fight fire with fire? Nanny, enough, said Malena. Hitting a feeble old woman, said Nanny, hurt. Who only tries to help. The next morning, Nanny packed her valise. There was nothing more that she could do, and she wasn't willing to live the rest of her life with a fanatical hermit and a ruined baby, even for the sake of Malena. Frex drove Nanny back to the inn at Stone Spar End for the coach and four to take her home. Nanny knew Milena might still think about killing the child, but somehow she doubted it. Nanny held her valise to her ample bosom, fearing bandits again. Inside her valise was hidden her gold garter. She could always claim it had been planted there without her knowledge, whereas it would have been hard to claim it had been planted on her leg in the same circumstances. She also had squirreled away the ivory crochet hook, 3 of Frex's prayer beads because she liked the carvings, and the pretty green glass bottle left behind by some itinerant salesman selling, apparently, dreams and passion and somnolence. She didn't know what she thought. Was Elphaba devil's spawn? Was she half-elf? Was she punishment for her father's failure as a preacher, or for her mother's sloppy morals and bad memory? Or was she merely a physical ailment, a blight like a misshapen apple or a 5-legged calf? Nanny knew her worldview was foggy and chaotic, pestered by demons, faith, and folk science. It didn't escape her attention, however, that both Milena and Frex had believed uncompromisingly that they would have a boy. Frex was the 7th son of a 7th son, and to add to that powerful equation, he was descended from 6 ministers in a row. Whatever child of either, or any, sex could dare follow in so auspicious a line. Perhaps, Nanny thought, little green Elphaba chose her own sex and her own color, and to hell with her parents. That is the end of the chapter, guys. I will see you next time for the next chapter, which is the Quadling Glass Blower. Thanks again for listening.